So we went back to our fans and asked them, with a new game, what would you like to see? What would you like to do? Who would you like to be? And we took that feedback, and the overwhelming comment was that people wanted to see what it would be like to experience Emergence Day. So with Gears of War Judgment, our new game, you actually get to be there and see the Locust emerging and destroying these cities. And Baird came back as a huge fan favorite. So we put him in the lead role for the game because he was the one character of Delta Squad who had never really had his story told in any of the other kind of branching off media of the game. So it was kind of unique in that we got to find this character that people knew and loved in a setting that they were familiar with but hadn't really seen. And so we got to do some new things there, and it was a really good experience. As you go through the game and you're declassifying testimony and fighting and doing all these different things, the game actually keeps track of what you're doing. So it knows, did you accept the declassified challenge? Did you complete the challenge? Were there any special awards you got along the way? Battlefield commendations, special moves that you did, things like that. Even tracks, did you go down? Down but not out. And then at the end of each chapter, it rates you on a scale of 0 to 3 stars to say how well you did. And you can track those stars across chapters and collect them. And what they do is you can use them to unlock new characters that you can use in multiplayer, new weapon skins, new armor customization, and then ultimately when you get 40 stars, that unlocks the entirely new second campaign, the Aftermath campaign, that's actually an epilogue to the whole series as a whole. So we have a new smart spawn system that changes the game every time you play. When you come into a scenario, it's no longer just, oh hey, I'm going to walk down this corridor and take out a bunch of enemies along the way. Every time you reload, every time you come back with a co-op buddy for a new experience, you're going to find that the experience you had is different than the one that he had, and you may have a third different experience when you guys fight together. Enemies come from different locations, different numbers of enemies, different groups of enemies, different types of enemies, and the game reacts to how you're playing. So that if you push forward too far, they're going to flank you, they're going to open up an e-hole behind you, they're going to do things that you didn't necessarily expect. And if you try and counter that by hanging back and just fighting from a distance, then they're going to start sending in massive numbers and squads of enemies. And it changes the gameplay a lot, it really changes the experience. But it also changes the way that the characters in the world react to what's going on. So there's always the chance that you're going to see something new, you're going to hear something new, you're going to find a new place that you hadn't found before. So we wanted to keep that as replayable in every section of the game as we could. With Gears of War Judgment's multiplayer, we really kind of tore everything down and started fresh. We knew we had some good combat systems, we knew we had some good things in place, but we really wanted to make it even better than we had in the past. We have a new control scheme that really streamlines everything, an offhand grenade, a quick weapon swap. It's a control scheme that is less clunky and more familiar, I think, to a lot of players out there. And we really just kind of looked at it from the perspective of wanting to make it better, wanting to make it smoother and more accessible so that if you've never played before, this would be the game that you could get into and play for the first time. But at the same time, we wanted to preserve that depth so that more experienced and competitive players would have a reason to come back and keep playing as well. And we did a really good job with that, and there's a lot of systems in place to do that. A really good example would be our new loadout system that we have in multiplayer, which allows players to choose to play the way they want to play, in that each of the weapons was completely rebalanced and redesigned so to ensure that it had a very specific role in the game. So we have that in our Team Deathmatch mode. We also have that in our new free-for-all mode, which is brand new to Gears of War, really changed the way we designed maps, getting rid of just the single combat front, adding buildings and things to jump off of and windows to climb through. And we also have that in our new domination mode, which is a team-based mode. And then lastly, we still wanted to do something that was totally different and new for this franchise. And one of the things that people had always asked for was why not do Beast versus Horde? They were two of our most popular game types in previous titles, and people always wanted to mash them together. So you could do the COG fighting the Locust, And we did it, and it almost immediately worked. It was just like, it was really, really cool. And especially fighting as the Locust, you could go in and you got to experience what it was like to be one of these big creatures and just do all these really powerful moves. But after you did that and you went back to playing the cog, you were just another guy with a rifle. So we really looked at it and said, okay, how can we make this better? How can we fix that? And we continued down that theme of letting people play a very specific role, something that they wanted to do, the way that they wanted to support the team. And we came up with a class-based system that is brand new to Gears of War in our new game mode called Overrun, where it is a group of cog versus a group of locusts in a competitive match. And each of the locusts is one of these giant creatures. They have their very specific abilities, but then the same holds true for the cog as well, in that each one is a very specific class, has a very specific weapon loadout, and a set of abilities that they can use to play their playstyle and still contribute to the team.